Hello and welcome to this tutorial in which we are going to look at all the animation essentials you need to know before you take the Cambridge A-Level IT exam. So before we do anything practical, I've provided some definitions you will need, which includes the definition of what animation is and the types of animations that we have. These include cell animation, stop animation, time-lapse, flipbook. We also have CGI, which is computer generated imagery. Then we have 2D, and finally we have 3D animation. So you can look their definitions up and how they are created in the PowerPoint presentation I've attached to the video's description. So here we are in Adobe Animate. Let's create a new file and have a look at the interface. So first of all, we have some presets here which you can select from. We have Full HD, HD 4K and Standard. And we also have the details section to your right, where we have fields where you can enter the width and height, provided you are given specific dimensions. Let's say we are sticking to the Full HD preset. The frame rate here represents the number of frames or the number of instances within a second. When we come down to platform type, when we drop down, we have ActionScript and HTML5. Once again, let's refer to our slides detailing when to use ActionScript and when to use HTML5. Now, if the question requires that you export your file as an animated GIF, whether you choose ActionScript or HTML5 doesn't really matter. So I'm going to leave it on ActionScript and just click on Create. By default, you realize that your screen is at 100%, covering the entire stage. So let's head up here where it says 100%, drop down and say Fit in Window. Further to our top right corner, we have three little icons here. The first one for publishing and sharing your work, and the next one is for the workspace. For the purpose of this video, I'm choosing Basic. And the next icon is to test your animation when it's done. A further look at the workspace gives us a menu at the top. Then we have a tools panel or a tools palette to our left. At the very center is our stage. To our right is the properties panel. It also holds the library. And at the very bottom, we have our timeline. If your workspace doesn't look like this, just head back up to the icon and select Basic. Or if it's on Basic and it still doesn't look like this, click on the Reset button, this one, to reset the entire workspace. Now let's take a look at what tweening is. It can be defined as a process in animation where frames are generated automatically between keyframes to create the illusion of smooth movement. The types we have are classic, motion, and shape. I've added a table that describes when to use each type of tween. For the classic tween, for instance, you can use it when you want to do a quick and simple animation. That is to say, moving a shape from one place to another, or in other terms, changing its position. When it comes to motion tween, you want to control multiple properties at the same time, and you also want to have advanced control over animation timing. For the shape tween, it is mainly used to change one shape to another, which we normally call morphing. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and make sure you share the video as well. Let's begin by creating a classic tween. We have a layer here called layer 1, and I'm going to rename it to classic. Let's go to where the shapes are, and I'm going to pick the rectangle tool. I'll head into the properties panel and select the color for it here. I can also select a color for it down here where it says fill color. So just double click or click once, and I'm choosing red. And up in my top left corner, I'll hold down shift and draw a square. Now I head to 2 seconds on my timeline and insert another keyframe. So I have my start point and my end point. The playhead is currently on the end point. If you have this blue line showing here, it is just because my loop icon is active. So I'm just going to click on it once to switch it off. Now at the end point, I'll pick my selection tool and I want my square to move down to the bottom right corner. So I have my start point and my end point. But there's no smooth movement in between the 2 points. So I'll right click on any of the frames in between the 2 points and select Classic Tween. Now it says convert selection to symbol for tween. So we must convert our shape into a symbol. You can click OK and Animate will do the conversion for you automatically. I'm going to click Don't Show This again and click OK. Now if I play back, I have this smooth movement from the top left to the bottom right. Let's create a new layer and name this motion. So on this, I'm going to create my motion tween. First, I'll make sure my playhead is at the beginning. And this time around, I'm going to click and hold where the shapes are and come down to where it says Polystar tool. I want to create a triangle. I'll change the fill to blue. Head into the properties panel and come down and look for tool options, under which we have style. At the moment it's on polygon and the number of sides is 5. So I'm going to change the 5 to 3. Hit the tab key, come back to where I have come back to the stage, and in my bottom left corner hold down shift and draw a triangle. I can use the move tool to place it in position, and you see a new keyframe is created here at the very beginning. Now head up to where it says insert and select create motion tween. This time around we don't have the symbol warning because I clicked do not show again. Once again, I'm going to drag my playhead to the end point and then I'll say insert keyframe. And I'll drag my triangle to the top right. You see that with the motion tween, it creates a visible path from the bottom left to the top right. And when I play back, this is what we have at the moment. But with the motion tween, when I bring my cursor close to the path, it has a curve beneath it, meaning I can curve the path. So when I play back, I should have something like this. Still on the same keyframe, which is the last point, when we look at our properties and under frame, we have a rotate option, which is currently on none. So I can drop it down and select clockwise. Number of rotations, I want just 1, so I'll keep it at 1. So when we play back, it should be rotating on its path. Lastly, let's add another layer. Make sure our playhead is at the beginning. And I'll go back into the shapes where we have the shapes. And this time around, I'll select an oval tool. And for the color, I like something orange. And I'll hold down Shift and draw an oval. Once again, we head to our end point. Since it's a shape tween we are going to do, we insert a blank keyframe, meaning Animate is ready for the next shape you want to include instead of the circle. So I'll head back to where the shapes are, the Polystar tool. Head back to Properties and under Tools, I look for Style, and under Polygon, I select Star. For the number of sides, I want 5. I hit the Tab key twice. And for the color, let's select green, or let's select black. And on the right side of the artboard, I'll hold down Shift and draw my star. I can use the Move tool to position it at where I want it to end. And there I have my blank keyframe now becoming a keyframe. So to shape tween, I right click anywhere in the middle and select Create Shape Tween. Now when we play back, we have a circle morphing into a star. So the main difference between the classic and the motion tween is, with the classic tween, you can only move in straight lines. And with the motion tween, the shape can move on a customized path. A classic tween can also be attached to a customized path. I've attached a link to the description of this video where I treated this method extensively. So you can click on the link appearing in the top right corner about now, or follow the link in the description later. Once again, remember to like and share after watching the motion guide video. Ease in and ease out control the speed of an animation at the beginning and the end. You can use ease in when an object is starting a movement. And you can use ease out when an object is ending a movement. So let's take a look at how to create the ease in and ease out effect in Animate. First, I'm going to create a text layer to label the different motions. So in my tools panel, I pick the type tool, head to the properties, and the fill, I would like to use black. And at the very top, I type in normal. So somewhere in the middle, I add another text for ease in. And at the bottom, ease out. We will add some shapes to demonstrate the movement. So first I'll add a layer for the normal effect. And rename our first layer to labels. And the next layer, normal. I'll head to the shapes in my tools panel and select the oval tool. And in the properties, let's change the color to blue. And just under normal, I hold down Shift whilst I draw my oval. Once again, if your workspace isn't looking like this, you can head to the icon here where it says workspace and select basic. I'm going to create another layer for ease in. and create another shape just beneath it. Don't forget to rename the layer. So I'll do it ease in one word. And the last layer will be ease out. And I'll add another circle there. You can use the selection tool or the move tool to align them so that they all have the same starting point. Now let's head to about 4 seconds on our timeline. And select all. You can click and drag upward, or you can hold Control whilst you select them one after the other. You can also hold down Shift, selecting the first one and the last one. And let's insert a keyframe for all. And for the normal, you right click and create a classic tween. Move your playhead to the end, and we move our shape to the right side. Let's repeat the same process for ease in and ease out. So when we play back at the moment, they are all moving at a normal speed. I'm going to select the ease in layer, anywhere in between the ease in layer, and head to my properties panel under frame, where it says effect, and where it says classic ease. Click on the button, and it comes up with these presets. Come down to where it says ease in, click once, and out of the presets on the side, cubic will be a good fit. So let's click on cubic. If you selected it, just double click, and for the meantime, let's hide ease out. Let's keep normal and play back. So for the ease in, it starts slow and gathers speed getting to the end. I'm going to bring back ease out and repeat the process. Click anywhere in the middle of the ease out layer, head into properties and under frame, select classic ease, click on ease out, look for cubic, double click, and let's play back our animation. So with the ease out, it starts with speed and ends slowly. Another visual presentation I can use to show the difference is to click on this icon known as onion skinning. When we click on it, it gives us a presentation of each frame, each and every frame within the 4 seconds. So when I scrub through, see that for the ease out, it gets to the end even before the ease in gets to the center of the animation. Earlier on, we mentioned that multiple properties can be applied to a keyframe in Motion Twins. Let's see how that is done in practice. I have this artboard here, Full HD or 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to import some assets onto it. First, the background. So I'll go to File, Import, and I'll say Import to Stage. I select the image I want to apply and go to Open. Let's go back to resize and fit in window. And let's reduce the size further so that we can see the size of the image. Okay, so this is the size of the image. So I'll pick my free transform tool, go to one of the diagonal corners to resize, but I'll do shift whilst doing so. So that I don't distort it. I can add another layer, place that one behind the image layer we've just created. Pick the rectangle tool, go to properties, select black, and draw a rectangle to cover the white spaces of the artboard. Now come back to where I resize and say fit in window. For easy identification, I'll head into the layers panel and rename my layers. I can name this black, and this one I can name it park. I'll create another layer. For the next asset I'm going to import, and with that layer selected, I head into File, Import, Import to Stage, and select this beach ball and say Open. Now what I want to happen is for the beach ball to bounce across the screen from left to right, and I want this to happen in 4 seconds. So on my timeline, I look for 4 seconds. And I click on the black and then the park and insert a keyframe. In doing that, we see the ball has disappeared because the playhead is on the last frame. Let's head back to the first frame and let's rename our layer. I'll name it the beach ball. And pick my free transform tool, hold down shift while I try to resize it, and place it somewhere outside the screen. Like this is fine. And still with that layer selected, I head into insert and I create a motion twin. By default, your motion twin will only extend to 1 second or 30 frames. But since I want it to last for the entire duration, I go to the edge of the motion twin. When I see the two-headed arrow, I click and drag to the right till it hits 4 seconds. I bring my playhead back to the beginning and drag my playhead to the 30 frame mark or 1 second. I click and drag my ball to the first point, that's somewhere here. Then I move to 2 seconds and move my ball to where I want it to make its second bounce. So that'll be somewhere here. I move to 3 seconds and do the same. And at the 4 second mark, I want it to move out of the screen. So I go this way. Now the guides will be a bit difficult to see. So what I'm going to do is click on the pack eye to hide it. So here we have our guides. So once again, I come to the beginning. And in between the beginning and my first bounce, I'm going to create a curve. So I'll pick my selection tool, bring it close to the guide, and create a bouncy or a curved path. I do the same for in between 1 and 2 seconds. And I do the same for between 2 and 3 seconds. And for the last one that brings it out of the screen, I also add. So this is the entire movement of our ball. Now, when you're not satisfied with where the ball hit on the floor, you can still make changes to that. All you need to do is bring the cursor close to any of the points at which it hits the floor. Let's say somewhere here. And when you see the cornered icon beneath your cursor, click and then just drag it into the position where you want the ball to hit. So I want mine to be somewhere here, and I'll do the same for this. Somewhere here will do. And this can come inward a bit. Now, before we bring back our background, let's test our animation. That's fine, but we need to add another property to this position keyframe. Now let's add a squash or stretch effect to when the ball hits the floor. So to do that, I'll go 3 frames before and after each keyframe and add a keyframe. So let me zoom in on the timeline where it says 1 second. I go to like frame 27 and add a keyframe. So 30th frame is 1 second, so I'll go 33 frames showing here and add another keyframe. And I come back to the 1 second mark, pick my free transform tool, select the ball, and ensure that my anchor point is at the bottom of the ball, and squish my ball downwards and stretch. So we're going to have something like this. And I'll repeat the process for the 2 second mark. So I have at the 57th frame, insert a keyframe, and 63, so it's plus 3 minus 3, insert another keyframe, and then come back to the 60th frame and squash and stretch your ball. Repeat the process for the last bounce. Now let's bring back our pack by clicking on the eye icon and let's test our animation. So with what we've just learned, we realized that this keyframe, aside positioning the ball, also takes up scaling. Now before we go to the next topic, let's go ahead and export this animated GIF. We go to File, Export, and depending on the question, you choose any of these options here. So I'm going to select animated GIF for now because our project has no sound. When your project has sound, you'll be required to export as a video. Head up into the presets on your right and make sure GIF is ticked. Glossy is on 0. Your width and height are all in place. And there are instances when they ask you to ensure that the animation loops. For that, you come down here and look at where it says looping and make sure when you drop down it's on forever. When you've ensured that everything is okay here, just click on save, and in the file name add the name that you are required to use. The format normally used is probably the file name they will provide you. So let's say I'm saving it as a bouncing ball, and then followed by your center number and candidate number. When you're done exporting, it's always advisable to head into the exam folder and ensure your file is correctly saved and playing. So let's play back. So from what you've just learned, you can think of the motion tween as an advanced form of a classic tween. Aside shapes and objects, animating text is also a very essential aspect of the syllabus. And let's take a look at how we can do that. Once again, I have my 1920 by 1080 or Full HD artboard already opened. And I'm going to pick the type tool, head into properties, and I'll choose, let's use a font style that we all have, Times New Roman, and I'll make sure the fill is black. Okay, I'll select green and type in the word animate. Go back to my tools panel and select my free transform tool, and I want to increase it further. Place it in the middle of my artboard, and let's say I just want to animate the text in terms of movement. So I'm going to place the text down here, move to 2 seconds on my timeline, insert a keyframe, and move it up. In between, right click, create a classic tween. And when we click, we have our text moving upward. This for a simple classic tween. Now we can make our text move in multiple directions. First, let me move it to the left side of my screen and reduce the size there. Hold down shift whilst I do that, sorry. So we are starting with a clean slate. So on the 1 second mark, I'll insert a keyframe. And I'll move my text down here. I'll move to 2 seconds, insert another keyframe, and move my text to the right side. I'll repeat the process on the 3 second mark. And on the 4 second mark, I bring it back to where I started from. So a quick scrub through will reveal this movement through the 4 corners. Once again, to achieve a smooth movement, I create a classic tween in between each keyframe, or each of the keyframes. So a playback will reveal something like this. Now let's head to one of the keyframes, let's say 1 second, and look at our properties panel under frame. Scroll down and let's look for color effects. At the moment it's on none. And assuming you want to change the color from green to a different color, what you have to select is tint. Make sure your playhead is on the keyframe whilst you're doing that. So you click on the color at the side, and let's say I want to change to red, and the tint slider is on 50 at the moment, so let's slide it to 100. Now scrub through from the beginning to the first keyframe will reveal your color change. At the next keyframe, we can repeat the process by changing the color again. Go to tint, ensure that your slider is on 100, and add the required color. Another instance of text animation is when we are to separate the alphabets in a word into separate positions. And to do that, let's create a new layer. Let's use the eye icon to hide our first animate word. And on the first keyframe of the layer we've created, I'll pick the type tool and head to the properties panel. Okay, I prefer the red. And then start typing your preferred word. I'll use the free transform tool to increase the size. And pick the selection tool, right click on it and say break apart. So what it does is it separates the word into individual alphabets. The next thing you will need to do is right click once again and select distribute to layers. When you head to the layers panel, you see your word spelled out from the bottom layer to the top. MOTION, in my case, motion. I want my animation to start from the 1 second mark. So I'll head to 1 second. Select all the layers. You can do that by clicking on the first layer, holding shift and clicking on the last layer. In my case it's M, and head to where we insert a keyframe, and there we have it. So from 0 to 1 second, no animation yet. Now the 2 second mark, I'm going to add keyframes for all of them once again. So select all, insert keyframe. This time around, individually, I'm going to move them into different positions. So just need to select the layer and move the letter into your preferred direction. Just to go here. There's the I. I want this to go there. Now you can create a classic twin for all. Note that you can use the motion twin to do this as well. So we have this. Now we can bring our text back to one word using what we call copy frames. So for each letter, you head to the start or the first keyframe, click on it, make sure it's selected, right click and say copy frames. Let's say I want my word to come back after a second. That will be on a 3-second mark. Click, right click and say paste frames. You can repeat the process for the rest of the letters. And after you're pasting the frames, you can select all these layers. So what you do is click and drag as though you're selecting all. Right click and create a classic twin. In this next example, we'll look at how text can be transformed into shapes. Just like we did in the previous example, on my first layer, I'll pick my type tool, select my preferred font, this time I'll select something a bit bold, and select my preferred color. Click on the artboard and start typing. Can use the free transform tool once again to increase the size. Place it in the middle of the artboard. Let's bring it up a little bit like this. So first we right click and break apart and distribute as usual. So right click again, distribute to layers. So you now have your word spelled out from S to the last S. You can now press Ctrl and A to select all once again. Right click once again and break apart again. Now our individual text are now shapes. So when you bring your cursor close to any of them, you realize that you can morph your text into any customized shape you want. So I'm pressing Ctrl Z to undo. And I'm heading to my timeline to say on the 3-second mark, I'll select all and insert a blank keyframe. For our first S, and pick a shape, a preferred shape. I'm starting with a rectangle with a red fill, and I draw my square. Go to the next letter, which is H. Pick the oval tool. I'm changing its color to say green, and I draw an actual oval. Go to the next blank keyframe and repeat the process. Position doesn't really matter. So you have about 6 shapes, which our letters are going to morph into. You can select all the layers on the timeline, click and drag over them, right click and select create shape tween. So a simple scrub through the timeline will portray the text or your word morphing into the individual shapes. In this next example, we are going to look at how we can animate an object along a guide whilst there's another animation nested in the object. To begin with, I'm going to import the files we need. So go to File, Import, and I'll pick this filled image which fits exactly onto the stage. The next item I want us to import is a butterfly. But before then, let's rename our layer. The next thing I want us to import is a butterfly. Let's create a new layer for that. Make sure we have a blank keyframe selected on layer 2. Head to File, Import. Once again, import to stage. Then I'll select the butterfly I have in the folder. And now use the free transform tool to resize it. And now position it to where I want it to begin from. And rename the layer butterfly. Or let me say butterfly 1. And the last layer we will need to add is the layer for the guide on which our butterfly will move. So create a new layer and I'll name this pencil guide or pencil guide 1. And head into the tools panel and look for the pencil. This is the pencil. If you can't find the pencil tool here, click on these 3 dots, click and hold, and select the pencil tool from this menu. If you find it, you just need to drag and drop it here. So for instance, I'm going to pick this 3D tool, click and drag and drop it here. Now I'll pick my pencil tool and head to the properties, and where you see this squiggly line here, click and hold and make sure it's on smooth. If it's on straighten, when you see this, click on it and make sure it's on smooth. You can increase the smoothing size to around 60 or 61. If your default is 50, you can increase it. And I'm going to draw my guide like this. And you have to observe if there are any hitches like the ones you see here and one here. You have to reject it and draw again. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z, pick my pencil tool once again. I'm going to increase the stroke size a bit from 1 to say 4 and try once again. Now this time around I have no hitches in the line, so we can go with it. Now after drawing the guide, let's right click on pencil guide and change it to a guide layer. And the butterfly layer, we click and drag it beneath the pencil guide to indent it beneath it like this. Now before we extend the timeline, I'll pick the butterfly and latch it to the guide. If you're not sure, you can pick the zoom tool, pick your free transform tool, rotate your butterfly a bit and just make sure the white dot you see here is latched to the guide. I'm going to zoom out once again, and now I'm going to head to 4 seconds because I want my animation to last that long. And for the field layer, I'm going to insert a frame. I'll do the same for the pencil guide because these two layers I'm not going to animate. But for the butterfly layer, I'm going to insert a keyframe. And aside inserting a keyframe, let me reduce this a bit. I'll move my butterfly now from the first keyframe to the end of the animation or the end of the guide. We can always zoom in to ensure that our butterfly is still latched to the guide. Let me like this, so it's still on the line. Right click in between and create a classic tween. Now when I scrub through, you see our butterfly moving along the guide. Now we want to make sure our butterfly follows the guide head on. So click anywhere in the middle of the classic tween, head to the properties panel under frame and look for orient to path. Click on it once and then you see that your butterfly is now facing the guide. So where you think it's going out of sync, you can pick the free transform tool. Let's see the end and rotate it a bit. And I think that will fix the problem. So when I play back, we should have something like this. But we realize that as we scrub through, the butterfly is just gliding through the field and it's not flapping its wings, which doesn't look natural. So to make it flap its wings, we are going to create a sequence within a sequence or an animation within an animation. So double click on your butterfly and you realize that your layer has changed. We now have layer 1, but you still have your main scene and the tween that we've just double clicked on. I'm going to extend or expand my timeline a bit, and I'll head to 20 frames, not 1 second. Let's say 20 frames, and insert a keyframe. And after that, we go to 10 frames and insert another keyframe. Now, for this keyframe, make sure the free transform tool is selected. Hit to the edges, the side edges, and try and decrease the size of your butterfly like this. And in between 0 to 10 and 10 to 20, we create classic twins. So when we scrub through, we have a flapping of wings in and out. Now we can head back to scene 1. Just click this or click on this arrow to take you back. And now when we scrub through the playhead, we have the flapping of wings. We can test this animation by going to Control, select Test Movie, and click on Test in Animate. Another animation technique you need to be conversant with is masking, and it is mainly used when you want to control the visibility of parts of a layer by revealing only certain areas. Back in Animate, we are going to look at two examples, mainly masking a text and masking shape. Let's begin with that of the text. I'm going to import an image onto the stage on layer 1. So once again, we head into File, Import to Stage, and let me select the roller coaster. I'm going to create a new layer on top of this, and on the blank keyframe, I pick my type tool and select my font style. Click on the artboard and start typing. Now use the free transform tool to resize or scale it up. Place it up here somewhere. I want a 4-second animation. I move to 4 seconds. On the frame layer, on the image layer, move to 4 seconds. First, let me rename it background, or BG. We just do. On the 4-second mark, I insert a frame, and for the text, I insert a keyframe. So I will just need to insert classic twins in between to get my smooth movement from one point to the other. Now to mask this, let me rename this as text or text 1. I just need to right click and say mask. So when we play back the entire animation, let's go to Control, test movie and let's say inAnimate. So you should have something like this. If the text trying to reveal only portions of the image as to where it changes its position to. Let's have a look at the second type of masking. I'm going to create a new artboard once again. And this time around, let's change the dimensions a bit. It's going to be 640 by 480. That's normally the standard. Okay, we have it down here as well. So click on create and make sure I fit it in the window. And I'm going to import an image onto the stage. So first I go to file, import, and let's say import to stage. And I'm going to pick this heart monitor, open. That's quite huge, so I need to resize it with my free transform tool. I think something like this. Go back to fit in window and center it. And I'm going to rename this layer monitor. It looks like a monitor. So I'm going to add another layer. And on that blank keyframe, I once again say import to stage. And I'll select this ECG. Let me reposition it. It's also quite huge. I'll need to use the free transform tool and hold shift. And so what we're going to do is I want the ECG to move across the screen like this. So I'm going to position it such that it runs through the center of the screen like this. And I'm going to name the layer ECG. And I'm going to create another layer just to create a straight line through the monitor. So I'll pick the line tool, make sure the stroke is white, and the size of the stroke, I think 3 is okay, or 2. And I'll just click and drag so that it runs from one edge to the other edge of the monitor. I'll come to the layers panel and rename that as line. I'm going to lock that down because it's not going to do any movement or it's not going to do any animation. Now let's go ahead and add a layer that will hold the mask. So I'm going to create a layer on top of the ECG that we added. So I'm going to name this mask. And when you try it out, Animate will give you a warning. It considers the word mask as a special character and it's not permitted in naming layers. So what you need to do is just rename it from mask to probably mask_1, and that will do. Now on the blank frame that we have there, I'm going to pick the rectangle tool and go into the properties. Just ensure that you have a fill color, it can be any color, and click and drag to fill where the ECG is going to pass on the screen. So something like this. Don't go beyond it. If you go beyond it, your ECG will appear beyond the monitor. Before we do the masking, we can now head into the timeline and extend our layers. So for the monitor, say it's just going to be static, so I'm just going to add a frame. For the line we created, it's also just going to be a frame. So for the ECG, I'll select it and prefer to use a motion twin. So I'll click motion twin, and what I'll do is extend the end to where the animation ends. So now that the playhead is on the end, at the end, I'll select my ECG and click and drag it across the screen. It should be in line with the line I've created, like this. So we should have a smooth movement from left to right. For the mask as well, I'm just going to insert a frame because it's just going to be static. So insert a frame. And I'll come back to where it says mask 1, right click and say mask. We can now head up to control, test movie and say test inAnimate. So this is how we can reveal long or lengthy content in a fixed window. And we can use that just using a rectangular shape. With this example, rectangular shape will do, but with other examples, you might be required to use a customized shape. Now there are times you are asked to import an SVG into Animate, and then you run into issues. Some of the common issues that you run into is when you import, the gradient doesn't appear anymore, or the text you imported from Illustrator is no more editable in Animate. I've compiled some of the issues and some of the causes in this slide and a suggested fix. Normally, when it comes to gradients and Animate doesn't accept it, what I would suggest you do is convert your SVG file into a transparent bitmap, then import it into Animate. Let me repeat that again. Before you import your SVG into Animate, if it has a gradient or a special filter, Animate may not accept it. So my suggestion is, after you have done the exporting as required by the examiner and it's in SVG, you can go ahead and do another export from the same Illustrator into a transparent bitmap as a PNG. And now you can now import that PNG into Adobe Animate and use it for your further animations. How to use symbols. More often than not, you will be required to convert your shape into a symbol, especially when you want to apply a motion twin. Here on these slides, you can see the type of symbols and what they are used for. You have the movie, the graphic, and the button. Movie symbols are very good when you want to do nested animations. The graphic symbol, however, is used for static images or animations tied to the main timeline. For the button, as the name implies, they are used when you want to create shapes that involve user interactions, like clicking, rolling over, etc. To demonstrate the differences in the symbols, we have this setup of two race cars on a background. First, let's head to the red car layer, representing a graphic symbol. Right click, convert to symbol. You can give it any symbol name. I'll name it red car and ensure that the type is graphic. For the registration, it just represents where you want the anchor points to be in case you are scaling it. I want mine to be in the center, so I click on the center. When we are done, we click OK. Now when we double click on it, you realize that it has created its own timeline within the main project. Now within this timeline, I'm going to move to 2 seconds and create a simple movement. So I'll insert a keyframe, move the car to the right side of the screen, right click and create a classic tween. So we have this movement from left to right. As we've learned from earlier from the video, I can click anywhere in between the timeline, move to the properties, and we can apply an ease property. So I'll head to effect where it said classic ease, click on it, and I'll say ease in. And from the options on my right, the presets on my right, I will select cubic for now, double click, and when we play back, it should end with speed. Now let's head back to the main scene. And when we click on the play button, nothing happens yet because on the main scene, we haven't added any frames yet. So I'll head to 2 seconds as well on the main timeline. Select the red layer and insert frame. And the background and the label disappears because they are not on the 2 second mark. So I'll just select both layers, 2 seconds, and say insert frame. Now when I play back, I should have my animation working. Note that we've not added a keyframe in the main timeline, just a frame. But it is operating on its own timeline. And that is how the graphic symbol works. Let's head to the blue layer and add a movie symbol. Right click, convert to symbol, and from the options, I select movie clip. We also have button here, but we are not doing anything interactive. When I select button, you will be required to enter JavaScript code. And since I've not seen that as part of your syllabus, I've not included it in the video. So let's select movie clip, maintain a registration at the center, click OK. For the movie clip as well, we can double click and it will have its own timeline. Let's head to 2 seconds as well. The same procedure. Add a keyframe, go to the end, move the car there, and in between create a classic tween. The movement is the same. Let's click in between and add an ease, and this time double click ease out and select cubic, double click, and when we play back here, it starts with speed and ends slowly. And let's head back to our main project, scene 1, and add a frame to movie to that layer as well, just a frame. Now let's play back. When we play back, we realize that only the graphic is able to play back in the preview. And that is the difference between a graphic and a movie clip. That is a difference. Now when we hit Control Enter, or we go to Control and test in Animate, we realize that both graphic and movie clip are animated. The movie clip is a more advanced symbol than graphic. Let's take a look at this. When we select our movie clip on the stage, head to the properties and you see the various options that you can make changes to. You can make changes to filters, 3D position, vanishing points, and accessibility. Let's click on graphic. With graphic, we have fewer options to handle. We can add color effects too and looping. We can also make changes to position. So make sure you know what you are required to do before you convert a shape to its corresponding symbol. Now, I should remind you that Adobe Animate is a powerful tool for creating engaging 2D animations. It can also be used for creating interactive content and web-ready graphics. In this tutorial, we explore the essentials ranging from the workspace to the type of twins that we have, to how to handle layers and masks, how to handle the timeline, and text animation. We also looked at easing and how to ensure looping in an animation. You should note that mastering these foundational skills opens the door to bringing your creative ideas to life. And with constant practice, the possibilities are endless. Once again, before we end the video, I'll encourage you to like, subscribe, and share. And to all A-level students writing the next paper 4 exam, I wish you all the best. Till we meet in the next video, it's bye.